Hi, this is a new Nigeria with Olawale Oluwade. Today I'll speak on what I've titled Panacea for Nigeria's Leadership Crisis. Panacea for Nigeria's Leadership Crisis. Um, it's a continuation of the the series I did, which I titled um, Leadership Wrong Leadership Choices. This is a continuation of that. Now, um, so I stumbled on a video of Pastor Tunde Bakari that is fitting as introduction in this intervention. I need you to take a couple of minutes and watch this snippet from Pastor Tunde Bakari. Please watch.
Of the lunch, the phone call came that the president wanted me. I didn't tell my wife before leaving home I was going to Mr. President. But one of the things I told him, please listen attentively, is that in Zion, the Bible makes it plain. The Lord is our judge. The Lord is our lawgiver. The Lord is our king. He will save us. That the judiciary, the legislature, and the executive arms of government, all the three arms of government are vested in God. But in the same passage, he said, all the inhabitants of Zion will be wild. None of them will be sick. But it is the lame that will take the prey. He said, I don't understand that. I said, I will explain it to you. You are the lame, Mr. President. I will never say publicly what I've not said privately. You are that lame man. He said, what do you mean? As a chief of Bafemi Awolowo, with all the graces, with all the intellect, with everything that he did to be president of Nigeria, he didn't make it. He got GCFR. He was deputy to Award, deputy chair, but he was not president of Nigeria. And look at his achievements, his accomplishment. Harold Wilson, Prime Minister of Britain, said, Awolowo has a brain capacity to run both America and UK at the same time. MQ, my God, spent and was spent, participated in an election, won the election, they nullified it, he never became president. You with all your excess baggage, I'm not trying to polish anything. There was nothing. I said I could not withstand what you withstood. Cocaine, false certificate, no father, no. That's
Okay.
this warning.
So
The President of the
what you just
Federal
watched,
Republic of Nigeria.
there are a number
Now
of
that
issues,
God has given
three or
it to
four
you, don't
issues
play
I need
God.
to straighten out quickly in this video. First issue I want to straighten out is the implied proposition or idea that it is God that enabled Bola Ahmed Tinubu to become president when there were far more better equipped, qualified, and suitable candidates uh, who didn't make it. That is arrant nonsense. And you know, it is this sort of peddled heresies that has ruined Nigeria until now. Like I did state clearly in the first part of this series on leadership selection and all of that, it was a conspiracy of the ruling elite which ensured Chief Obafemi Awolowo, Chief MKO Abiola, Dr. Alex Ifeanyichukwu Ekweme, and Dr. or Chief Olufalaye didn't become president of Nigeria. It wasn't God, but the ruling elite. And it is the same ruling elite that made Bola Ahmed Tinubu president in 2023. Second issue I need to deal with, the very fact that Pastor Tunde Bakare was discussing with a sitting president of any country, but in this instance, Nigeria, and was saying to him, in essence, and I quote, you see, with all your moral baggages, including but not limited to serial allegations of, number one, cocaine peddling, certificate forgeries, identity crisis, etc., etc. Yet you became president. This should make you humble. End of quote. This paraphrase is mine. That wasn't quite how he put it, but I mean, that's the gist of what Pastor Tunde Bakare said he told the president. So, you see, this right here says everything you need to know about Nigeria's ruling elite. Pastor Tunde Bakare wasn't at a penitentiary or a maximum correctional facility counseling a convicted serial killer or terrorist. But he was actually in the posh private residence of Nigeria's president. Just let that sink in. This conversation Pastor Tunde Bakare had was with Nigeria's president in his private, Nigeria's president in his private residence. To the effect that, the people who accused you of all these sundry, crimes or offenses, yet you became president. Why should that be? So, I need to straighten out. If you don't know, let me, state it again. And for the upteenth time, too, I've said this a number of times. Nigerians generally, do not have any qualms with criminality, that is criminal behaviors. The majority of Nigerians don't have any qualms, with crimes. We don't. There is a silent but pervasive value code of, get rich anyhow, just don't get caught. And if you do get caught, steal enough money, however you want, maybe scams, international scams in the US or wherever, or loot Nigeria's treasury, just steal enough money so that you can pay your way out of it. And then you actually buy political offices in the Senate or as governors or even as whatever, Hardly can you find a current or ex-ruling elite in Nigeria who hasn't had a brush with the law, either in Nigeria or abroad. I mean, there are others that traveled abroad for whatever reason and were arrested by the FBI, and they're cooling their heels now behind bars. High profile, so-called entrepreneurs. Nobody knew they were scammers. Business email compromisers and all of that. International drugs, agents and all of that. We have the case of Buruji Kashimo, a senator, who was on a perpetual wanted list of the FBI in America. So Nigerians have no qualms about crimes or criminality. Just don't get caught. And even if you get caught, steal enough money or make enough money via crimes so you can pay your way through. So hardly can you find any elite Nigerian who has not got a brush, who hasn't had a brush, with criminal regulatory agencies or police or whatever, either in Nigeria or abroad. And our society does not see this as a disqualifying factor in political, for political contest in Nigeria. Now, fourth thing I need to straighten out: the notion that President Tinubu can somewhat, be convinced to be what he is not, by Pastor Tunde Bakare is futile. What President Tinubu isn't is that he is not, and quite frankly, has never pretended to be a Democrat. I mean, we saw how he won the presidency last in 2023. And like I just said, we all know how he has held on firmly to the apparatus of Lagos State government since, 1999. So appealing to President Tinubu now that he is president to not play God is a futile exercise. All his political life, he has played God and sort of gotten away with it. I mean, removing he is the only governor on record in Nigeria in this Fourth Republic that has removed three deputy governors or used 3 deputy governors. In the history of Nigeria, I do not know of any other state governor who did that. So as president now, he has appropriated, we call it state capture. He's appropriated the 3 arms of federal government effectively. And even state governors cower in timid submission for fear of being removed. And Rivers State governor was removed unconstitutionally. A clear breach and desecration of the Constitution of Nigeria. So, where's the need for humility on the part of the president? Who's going to stop him? The Senate or the House of Reps? Come on. Now, as I prepare to wrap up, leadership represents the highest of all the human skills or competencies. Consequently, the rigorous process of a structured formal education system, continuous training and capacity development, and especially mentorship required for other professions and disciplines, demands an even more onerous standard on leadership development in Nigeria. There is therefore a need for a deliberate intentionality about establishing a political leadership development framework for Nigeria going forward. Also, and far more importantly, there is an urgent need for a gatekeeping framework for political leadership recruitment in Nigeria, permitting an all-comers policy, into or in our political leadership recruitment system is a disaster of epic proportions or dimensions. That is why we are here. I admire and recommend what we practice in the private sector. We recruit fresh-faced graduates and tag these management trainees. They are then subjected through a decades-long strict and withering process of grooming, nurturing, capacity development, and mentorship. Therefore, first, the undesirables are ejected quite early. Second, and fast on their heels of the undesirables, are the weak, who easily fall by the wayside. Third, the average, those who are average, are allowed somewhat to attain mid-level status and are forced to either exit or stagnate at mid-level, career. So, and deliberately, only the best get to the zenith of whatever industry or profession they belong. In this way, Messrs. Eg Imokwede and the late Herbert Wigwe, for instance, didn't just show up to become bank chief executive officers. No, they were discovered, groomed, nurtured, trained, and mentored by others through the process I just enumerated. Same for all the hundreds of others in the organized private sector. That's how people like us became, top management of financial services organizations. The process I just explained, we got in, and then we were trained, and retrained, and then got promoted from one level to the other until we became bank insurance companies MDs, and bank MDs, and PFAs MDs. And it's like that in all the sectors of the organized private sector, all the industries in the organized private. That's how it is. You don't just show up and become the MD of a telco, or you become the MD, of an asset management firm just like that, or buy it up. So nobody becomes a bank CEO by spending money to buy up either the board of directors and or the regulators, central bank or SEC or National Insurance Commission or PFA. No, you don't do that. You earn this position by merit. And this is the culture of excellence built on a merit-based system. And this is why regulatory oversight absolutely discourages succession by hereditary in the organized private sector, either by hereditary or godfatherism. We frown at it. I worked briefly at the National Insurance Commission, the regulatory body, over the insurance industry. I was special assistant technical to the chairman of the board of NICOM for about a year, so I know exactly what I'm talking about. So this process must be the blueprint for Nigeria going forward. This is the blueprint in China, in their public service, in Singapore, in the United Kingdom, etc. Great leaders, either in public or private sector, aren't born, but they are made by other great leaders. Therefore, anyone vying for high public office, must excel in the leadership fitness test criteria I mentioned in the first episode. Now, what are these? Moral fitness, mental fitness, physical fitness, democratic fitness, emotional fitness, and finally, performance fitness. You must excel in this leadership fitness test. So, in my own case, I spent almost 30 years in the financial services sector. I still can't fathom under what special circumstance someone, who's been investigated by the FBI or the DEA, that is the Federal Bureau of Investigation, or Drug Enforcement Agency in America for drugs related or sundry crimes, is given the nod to assume bank CEO role. Even in Nigeria, I shudder to imagine how anyone who has got a whiff of scandal involving financial misconduct or drug-related, offenses will become an AGM in a bank or an insurance company or an asset management company. I am trying to fathom under what circumstance such a person will get to that position. So likewise, a candidate with a cloud hovering over their academic, professional, or personal records, I wonder how such would rise to management, status in any of the private sector, regulated sectors. If this doesn't happen in the banks and every other structured and regulated private sector organizations, how did we remove the gates to allow felons, crooks, riffraffs, and touts as political leaders in Nigeria? How? Just how? So, rebuilding Nigeria is a sacred assignment that must be conducted by men of extremely high moral standards, personal discipline, and the utmost patriotism. I can't overstate this point. This idea that morality or ethical, fastidious devotion to ethical standards does not matter in public life. That is the reason why Africa and Nigeria particularly will never go anywhere. It never will. Because like I said in the first video, show me one great nation on this earth that the people that built those nations were totally immoral. They lacked ethical, strong ethical beliefs or attitudes. They just behaved anyhow. They did anyhow, and the nation was built. Show me one. So the assignment of rebuilding Nigeria on the template I just highlighted is a long overdue sacred assignment. That assignment has been long overdue. It ought to have started, if not 1960 or 1979, or 1999. The best time is now. We need to rebuild this country on sound foundations. Enough of allowing just about anybody get into our political leadership system, seize the reins of political power, and destroy this country. And replicate, the worst is they replicate themselves in the generations, coming behind. That can't happen anymore. If we're going to save this country, we need to stop that madness and do the right things. Thank you for listening, and God bless Nigeria. Bye for now.